Okay, so welcome to that second session in English of today. I will skip quickly over the few PowerPoint slides and then jump into the demo. So we are now here at 3 p.m. The CAD Functions of PlantTools, and tomorrow is administrating with PlantTools, and on Friday it's your data at the center. Yeah, I think I can skip over that. And I cannot show all of the features, especially not in detail. So these are the features of PlantExpressTools, which have to do anything with the CAD part, let's say. And I will try to show as much as possible. And PlantClashDetection, since you all watched the first session, I think I can just skip that because there is not much more to see. I'm just checking again. Yeah, no one is new here. Okay, so let's jump right into my AutoCAD. I should also mention that although I use here Plant 3D 2020 in English, or well, the German session I had that in German, but all PlantTools are available for the last 6 versions. So currently it's from P90 Plant 3D 2015 to 2020. There is, I think the customers we have, the oldest one used 2016, but they are in the process of upgrading. So there are very few customers use such old versions. It's not really recommended, especially since which you probably recognized or may know, Autodesk does a lot of bug fixing lately, actually since I think version 2018. So it's highly recommended just because of all the bug fixing. Okay, so I will start from the back now with the bolt calculation. This is a feature which hopefully will be done or released till the end of next week, maybe a few days into the week after that. We will see. We are almost done, but well, there's still some testing going on. So also here you may experience some issues. So what I will do is I create a new pipe to have something I can insert my flanges in. So what just happens? Okay. Oh, that's a little bit too far away. So let's just create some pipe. Does not really matter. And then I will simply insert, for example, a flange. What will happen then is, hopefully, you will see this, for example. So first of all, why have our own bolt calculation? Well, an Austrian, or it's actually a global customer, but the colleagues in Austria and in combination with their colleagues in Germany wanted to have a better configurable bolt calculation. So we offered that, and they ordered it. And finally, we are long overdue. It should be done already last year. But so what it does, it completely replaces anything related or in regards to bolts from Plant 3D. The nice thing is you don't need to make any changes to your project setup. It's all done in the background. Nothing required by you. And unless you want to get more involved with the feature, but by default it works smoothly, so to speak. And what you can do is you can, for example, use bolt sets like you're used to, or you can use single bolt parts. So in this case, I have it set up as single bolt parts, and to be able to actually select the individual parts, what I will do is, come on, let me just move that here to the side. I will use the control key and select this connector in the middle. This is, well, sorry, I have it set up to German, sorry. So that's the bolt. And then we have probably the nut and the washer. And you can actually define what parts you want. If you decide, okay, I don't need washers, or I need 2 washers, or whatever, you can set it up however you want. There is a whole user interface for that, but again, we cannot go into the details of that. So there are all the various standards in German and in English, ANSI and in German standards, and there are the bolt parts. And if we look, for example, for the German standard, flanged connection, PN10s or pressure rating, size 100, you see again set up to German. You see these are the data for the bolt sets, and the bolt set is made out of the protrusion. In English, it's a protrusion, I think, and the bolt and the nut and the washer. But it could be more. And for example, here you see I have 8 bolts, I have 8 nuts, and I have 16 washers, for example. So, but if you want to have only 1 washer for each bolt set, then you just change it. Otherwise, you will have all the properties you have. But it's our own catalog. It has the same properties, and if you extend your catalog, you will see your own properties here as well. So this is how you can really dive into and make changes, but by default we deliver a bolt catalog. And if you insert, let's say, a flap, which is a wafer connection, then it looks like this, and so on. So whether or not, maybe I show one thing. If you really want to change this to bolt sets, using bolt sets, then you just go to the setup and you switch over. Did I select it? Yes. Then you switch to use bolt sets and click OK, and then I can update. You can update a single line, you can update a drawing. Okay, let's see. You can update a single line, a whole drawing. The video, did I start the recording? Yeah. The recording slows down the machine also. So, but you can also update the whole drawing or a whole category. So I could just old 3D drawings, but I just want to don't. So you can see all the lines which are affected, and then it replaces it, and you have now just single bolt parts or bolt sets. Sorry. Okay, so now I started from the back. Now I go to my. Well, actually, I am in P90. Sorry, in my demo project. So now let's start. Let's close some dialogues and then, or palettes more specifically, and then I will start with Plant Project Manager. We have our own project manager, and the reason for that, I think I mentioned that in the last demo, is that we can now extend the context menu however we want. We can also create our own categories. So by default, you have P90 3D, then you have a tab with orthos and isos, and you have a folder for spec sheets and related files. Here you can define, okay, I want to define my own categories. Here I have one which is just disabled, so I enable it again. You can define which tabs you want to see. I get back to that. You can define what text you want to see for your drawings and how the file name format is supposed to be, let's say, concatenated or calculated essentially. And you can use versions and revisions for your drawings, and how that all works I can showcase. So the order can also be influenced, of course. So if I create here a new drawing, then that's my project number, which is part of the drawing. Then let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Its document type is a P90, for example. And then I have the frame size, and here it's the selection list, which actually uses then the key for the file name. So if I select A2, which is 12, then this is used here. So there are a lot of neat things. Of course, you can override. You can set the initial version or revision. and then you just click OK, and that's about it. You see, if you want the version and revision number in the file, in the project manager, then, as I mentioned, you can decide which tabs you want. The details is like in AutoCAD. Properties shows all the AutoCAD the drawing properties, and all the revisions I have. So if I use a different drawing where I have more versions and revisions, like here, maybe I make that wider. You can stretch that. So these are my versions and revisions. And this history can also be printed out with or used in Plant Reporter. So you can create a document. I actually have a template for that to create an overview of your history of your drawings. Then you can, of course, if you create a new version or revision, you can create a new version or revision, and so on. So just going ahead. So it gives you a lot of possibilities. Work history is what Autodesk is writing. Also, I should mention, very important, the project properties can be edited without going into project setup. This is very convenient for users because you can change that, and without, if you want to go to project setup, all your colleagues have to leave the project, so you can actually make the change. Okay, so let's squeeze that. Oh, maybe I should go to my demo drawing, which I usually use. That is this one here. Okay. So this is my demo drawing, which I use for a lot of things. So please don't get confused. So let's start with the symbols palette. This was also something customers wanted, because as you probably know, if you specifically for P9D, if you create a new symbol and you put it on your tool palette, and then you have to make sure that all of your colleagues have that symbol, and then there is still the issue of if you are in a different project and the symbol does not exist in that project in the configuration, then you have the symbol on the tool palette, but you still cannot insert it, of course. Doesn't make sense. So our symbols palette doesn't need anything. You create a new symbol, for example, in your P9D configuration, and that's it. You don't put it on your tool palette, and then the first time you use our symbols palette on a project, it loads. I can simulate it by just refreshing. It loads and generates all the symbols or the pictures, and that's about it. And you can either use the class structure of Plant3D or P9D in this case, or you can switch to what we call a category view. This is similar to the tabs in your tool palette, like equipment, lines, and inline objects, but you can create also your own. I can edit that. I can, and here I define, for example, blowers, compressors, and pumps, but let's say I want to have also maybe the assemblies. That's actually another feature of our PlantTools. There should be. Okay, there it is. So you can modify what you want to see. You can hide, you can change the order, you can use different styles, make it a bit bigger or smaller. You can also export the images. That was a request from a French customer who wanted to be able to export the PNG files to be used in some documentation or so. That's also possible. But I personally like to use the classes because of Data Manager, you are usually already familiar with the class structure. Anyway, so that's the symbols palette, and there is no need for exporting, importing. And the symbols palette, that's the most important part. Besides, no need for export and import in a network. It only shows the symbols which are available in your current project, period. There is no symbol which does not exist in your project, so you can trust it, so to speak. You can also search for whatever valve. Valve. Then it shows you all the valves it finds, or for whatever. Clear. Okay, so that's the symbols palette. I probably need that later on. Properties palette. We have our own properties palette, and the reason is, let me select this one here. Yeah, I can open it also here. It's also through the, so I will keep that open and select the equipment. In our properties palette, you can define your own tabs, and you can define, if I click here on equipment, you can define which groups, we call it groups, you want to have, and which properties you want to have in each group. So you are completely free in defining how to structure your properties. As you probably know, if you create a new property, it's always at the end, but maybe from a logical point of view, it would make more sense to have it more in the middle or at the top because you forgot it at one point, whatever reason. In addition, you can also use the properties of related classes. And that means, for example, for equipment, I see here some general equipment properties. I see some technical data. That's also properties of the equipment. But here I have the properties of a nozzle, and it's not just one nozzle. I can, like in 3D, I can switch to this one here, to nozzle 1, and I can set the property, the value. So here it's not acquired anymore. So you can also edit the nozzle properties. And of course, if I select the nozzle, I could or can edit the equipment properties as well. Also very convenient if I select a line. By default, you have only the line properties you can edit with the AutoCAD properties palette. So if I go here, you have only the properties of your line segment, but not of your pipeline group. If you want to edit properties of your pipeline group, then you have to go to or use the data manager, because they don't have graphic. But in our properties palette, I have here properties for the segment. Here are additional properties I will showcase in a moment. It's also from the pipeline segment, but I also see the properties of the pipeline group. And for example, if I change the line number here to a new value, that of course means that, where's my mouse pointer, that the tag of the group changes and the tag of the segment changes as well. So you can, by selecting a segment, you can are also able to modify the properties of your which are behind the group of the line segment. Okay, then that's the properties palette. Yeah, maybe a footnote. You can switch whether you want to have the tab on the side or at the top. It's really that was actually an accident by the developer. I didn't tell the developer that, but somehow we got our ideas crossed. Line annotation update. There are update functions for text and for properties, either for the line, the text in the text in the drawing or the text in the project. And this is because if you change the tag format, which does not happen that often, but especially in the beginning, you may want to change the tag format, but all the tags you already use have to be updated. And so for that, we have an update function, which, well, does not do much right now. There is one. Okay, that's from a signal line. But you just can update the tags, acquisitions. By now, Autodesk has its own acquisition update function, but we had this from a very early stage in our PlantTools. There is also a line annotation update, and I will show this with a specific example. So let me remove that. So I have here a line, and I want to annotate it. Okay, let's say here. And now I insert, let me, a reducer. And this is a common problem from the very beginning, and it's understandable, so to speak. So what happens now is the reducer breaks the segment in two segments. And so this segment here is the new segment, but the line annotation is still connected or linked to this segment here on that side. So it shows essentially the wrong information. And with the update function we have here that runs through the drawing and updates all line annotations it finds. It also checks if I would move or copy, let me just, this line annotation a little bit closer to here, then it is linked now to this one. You can also, yeah, there are a lot of other options. So far, it's a feature we have now for quite some time, and it's very useful. And yeah, customers recognize that there is a lot of issues. List function. Here we have, I don't know how it is in other areas of the world, but some companies use, we call an equipment list within the PIN-ID. So there is some title block, let's say, and then you have essentially an annotation. That's an AutoCAD PIN-ID annotation. But of course, you would have to place it manually for every equipment. So what we have is we have a list function, and I can update all the lists. I have 4 in this drawing. I should have zoomed out before. So I have here an equipment list. Here I have a list for flow data. That would be more for a PFD maybe. Then I have a list of the inline objects, essentially, so all the valves and specialty items, and for the nozzles. And if I make some changes, for example, let me just add, that's now English AutoCAD. If I copy that and I give it a tag maybe, and crusher. Okay. And I just update, no, that's not what I wanted. I just update. And here we see, okay. So it creates the list from scratch. The text here is too long, so what I will do is actually crusher 2 and just refresh. You can also, most of the functions we see can be executed when saving the drawing. So for example, I go to Undrawing Save, and here I have, actually the list update is checked. So if I save the drawing, we should see that it disappears and then will be regenerated, and all the other lists as well. So that is, let's say, convenient if you want to make sure that if you save or close and save the drawing, that the list is up to date. Lists can also follow other lists. This is an example I have here. So first comes the valve list, and then with a certain specific distance, you can define it starts with the next list. So that's also a possibility. Okay, list function properties, update line annotations. I had this. From to, no, yeah, there is a from to, but calculations. With calculations, maybe we start with, it does not really matter. So that was a fun project. The calculation allows you, like in Excel, to calculate a property. Could be a PIN-ID property, of course, also for 3D. So it could be, let's say, a Plant 3D property, but it can also be an AutoCAD property. I can, for example, calculate the color. And I'm doing this, for example. Let me show you what happens if I delete, or if I have if I have a tag with a question mark in it, either because it's a double tag or if it's incomplete, like in this case, so I have a question mark. And if I save the drawing, this will become red. It is not always executed instantly because that would just take, sometimes it would take too long. And sometimes our Plant3D API doesn't give us that info. And why is it not? Let me see, update. I use that, I think, for something else. That's, as I mentioned, that's my demo project where I kind of put together all sorts of things. Let me see if maybe I have that, I use that example somewhere else. Yeah, I think I have it. I use that. Let me just check. Equipment, color index. Model number. Okay. Yeah, I use also, or make all sorts of different tests or demos. That brings me actually to the extended assign tag dialog. So we extended the assign tag dialog, so you can define additional properties you want to see when assigning a tag. They are not part of the spec, of the tag, but they can be shown here. So the user is more, let's say, willing, or because you have to type them in anyway. So if you can add them. So I delete that, and if it's deleted, it should become red. Why not? Oh, no, okay. So you can use that calculation essentially for some checking. We do this for GR, where we have a property for the order status. There is also a link to an ERP system. So when you insert a symbol, the status is 0 for not ordered. Then if there is a data export from PNID to the ERP system, then the status changes to 1. And if the PO number comes back from the ERP system, it will be imported in PNID, and then the status changes to 2. And they also have some special, some other values. However, so based on the value, we change the color of the symbol so they can review where are things they missed or where are outstanding things and so on. Okay, coming back to the calculation. So here I have an extended annotation. So that's a standard annotation just with a lot of properties. And what is happening here is that you type in the flow speed and flow quantity or flow rate of that line segment, and it then PlantExpressTools calculate the theoretical inside diameter. Then PlantLink checks which size is the next larger one, and this is in this case size 100, and then the inside diameter is 107.1, and this leads to this operational flow speed. So that was my initial value. So, and if you change it, all the properties change either through calculation. Oops, here it is. Either through calculation. You see also the size here changes. Of course, you see it here as well. You see it here in the standard annotation. So this is really a mixture of PlantLink and PlantExpressTools. That is PlantExpressTools calculating the required inside diameter, and we can see that here. So that's the formula I found in the internet. I'm not a process engineer. That's a very, very simplified version, but there are more complex ones. So here there is really some calculation like in Excel. But I have other examples where let me see, the line annotation. The line annotation, for example, here. It's a regular line annotation. The difference is that I don't show the tag. I show different properties. So you see the tag here, but I have also properties here conveniently. So if I delete them, the text used here for the annotation is recalculated. And this is an example I have here, line annotation. There is an expression editor we use in all of our PlantTools. So I check if the insulation type is empty, then show only the tag. If it's not empty, then check if the thickness is empty. If that is empty, then show the tag plus a delimiter plus the type. If the thickness is not empty, then the tag plus delimiter plus type plus delimiter plus insulation thickness. So you can use a lot of functions here. So you can compare it with Excel. That's the best description. So it can be really some mathematical functions. It can be string operations. It can change colors or AutoCAD properties. It can calculate color and so on. So that's calculation. DWG export. Let me go to my other project. Yeah, and then we are done, I think. I just want to mention again, I mentioned that in the first demo, if you have questions, send an email to info@auxalia.com or to my email address, carsten.beinecker@auxalia.com. So let's go to the 3D. Actually, I don't need to open that. I don't need that. So the DWG export allows you to, that's my 3D drawing, that's okay. You can select one or multiple drawings. And there are several options like how XREFs should be treated. In my case, I set it up that XREFs and this 3D drawing uses B100, B200, P100, and the steel as external references. And my result should be just one DWG with everything in it. It should contain only solids, and everything else should be deleted and it should be purged. So there are options you can set up. I already did this, and you can define which file format, and then it runs through the motions, through the drawings. It detaches, exports, and so on. So you can use that also for P90 drawings. Of course, so the advantage is it's using it's then a batch process. So if you have 20 P90 drawings, there is of course the export to AutoCAD command. But if you have 20 drawings, you have to do this for all the drawings. And here you can simply select 20 drawings, P90 drawings, and they are all exported. Okay, so now it reattaches and then binds the XREFs and purges the drawing. And that, yeah, now it purges. That was successful. Now let's review the result. Yeah, that's from, let me just check. That's on my desktop. And now I have a drawing where everything is bound and everything is just AutoCAD solids. So, and yeah, solids. But that depends on your setup. Yeah. Last point, I want to refer you to our homepage for more info, especially for PlantExpressTools. So if you go to auxalia.com and switch to English and go to PlantTools, come on, a little bit faster. Yeah, there are some videos. There is also, or should be, one with our customer in the US. Well, maybe it's hidden somewhere. So PlantExpressTools, there are main functions. And you can either watch this overview video, which is something like close to 9 minutes, and that contains all these 17 videos. So PlantExpressTools currently have 17 functions, and with the bolt calculation, there will be an 18th one. So you can view them individually, or you can view them one after the other. And yeah, that's the last referral I want to give. And yeah, then I go back to my last slide. Thank you for your attention. And I Maybe some of you I will see tomorrow or on Friday for the administrative part and for the data management part for PlantTools. Have a nice day, and wherever you are in the world. Bye.